Alright, this is my project. This is Bolton Project 1, also known as Romell Notes. It's basically a simple note-taking app that allows you to perform CRUD operations. You can create, read, update, and delete notes to a local database stored persistently on the device. So if I have notes, so firstly, I'm going to cover the three activities. This is activity 1, where all the notes are displayed as you see. If I press the plus button, this takes me to the new note activity or the editor activity where you can add a note. For example, hi Romell. And if I press the back button, we go back to the activity where that note is added. And also, if it clicks, also if I go to About Developer, it takes me to a web view activity. It's the third activity. It basically shows information about the developer, which is me, and other repositories where I have other, Android Studio projects. So those are the three activities. I'm going to show you the dialog box as well. So the dialog box, you press the menu option item, and you can say, clearly I have a lot of notes, and I can say delete all notes. It says, are you sure? Then I can delete all. That's the dialog box. And then once you press the OK button, the positive button on the dialog, then the notes will be deleted. And now to see the threads, I run 2 threads on this app. If I go to one, give me time please. So when I do my menu item in my on options item selected method, once I go to the About Developer page, once I create an intent to my web view activity and I load my GitHub website, the About Developer, this operation right here, if I can get the menu to work properly, once I click About Developer, this whole process is run on a thread, and I do that using a runnable object, and I override its run method, and I basically create an intent. I put data into the intent, and I start the activity all within this thread, and I load the web view activity that displays this website in the web view to interact with. So that's one thread. And my second thread, if it'll allow me to find it, my second thread is created using a cursor loader. And if you don't know, a cursor loader basically uses you specify the content URI of your app. I use a content provider within my app so that I can properly access my data via the database. So I specify my content URI, and I create a cursor loader. And basically the cursor loader more or less performs the operation that is called on the onCreateLoader method, and you specify what items you want to put into the cursor loader so that it's returned in the onLoadFinish method. And when the onLoadFinish method is called, it basically is returned to the main thread. So onCreateLoader launches a loader by returning the cursor loader object. It launches that new thread and gets the data from the database by specifying the content URI, and it receives the data in the onLoadFinish method. And then I basically swap the cursor to my cursor adapter, and then the data in my list view is updated with the most current data, depending on the database operation that was executed. So those are my 2 threads. The next thing I'm going to highlight is my list. So as you can clearly see, if I create sample data, you can see that the data is being displayed in a list. So if I go and add a whole lot of data, for example, My emulator runs kind of slow, so I apologize for the hold up. But I'm basically trying to add a lot of data to my list view so you can see the scrollable functionality, but I'm just going to do it manually then. So please bear with me. Just going to add several things to my list view. And as you see, once my items start to come off the screen, you'll see a little bar on the side of my list view, so you can scroll the items. So now you can clearly see that this is a list view. And the code that manages the list view, if I can get to it, I have a cursor adapter, which basically binds the data into, I have a note item for every row, and I'm basically inflating it on my the data that's getting from the database into my list view. So that's my adapter, and I actually use my adapter in the main activity. So so like I said, I am using the adapter in the main activity, a cursor notes adapter, and I instantiate my list view here, and then I set the adapter with the cursor adapter that loads the data into the list view that displays the data that is inserted into the database. So next, I'm going to go into the options and context menu. So as you already know, I have my context menus here. And these are the various items. I can, for example, delete all notes. If I go, like I said, my emulator is going slow, so if I want to delete all notes, a pop-up dialog pops up, another required component of the app. Press OK to delete all the notes. That's just one. And if I can get the emulator to behave, going very slow, so bear with me please. If I want to, create sample data, then I can do that. Like I said, it's just an emulator, so the sample data is created. Basically, that's just the work, the use of my menus. I have 3 menu items, and they all work. So, see? And if I want to go to about the developer, that loads, so my menu items work. And like you said, for an individual project, you have preferences or a database, and I clearly have a database. So, my database, I will show you the database code. Expand Android Studio. Databases are one of those things that you can see. So I have my DB Open Helper class that expands SQL OpenLight Helper. Create my various, I have my database name, version, my table, my columns, an array of all my columns, and I have my SQL statement to actually create my table. And I have my on upgrade, my on create that executes the SQL statement. And just to show you how I'm handling my data, I have a content provider that basically is used to perform the operations on my database. So I have my authority, my base path, my content URI, my URI matcher, and I create an instance of my SQLite database here. And in my on create, I get a writable database. And as you can see in my content provider, whenever these methods are called, when I execute any options on my, execute the actions in my app, the query method will be called, which will return the database query based on, in descending order, based on a note that was created. And my insert, I'm basically getting the content values that was passed in to this method, and I'm using the database's insert method to add it, and I return that URI. To delete a URI, I pass in the URI that I want to delete, the selection, the arguments, and I call the database helper's delete method on the database. And if I want to update, I pass in the value that I want to update, with the selection args, and I call the databases update method. And that is all of the required components of my app. Like I said, this app is a simple note-taking app. Add notes, create, read, update, delete, as all shown in the list view. Float and action button that has the primary action of the app. Context menu to do various other things within the app. Thank you for your time.